going to discuss in the second part. So before we start the session, so let me thank the sir for giving me good introduction. Thank you, sir. And we'll be starting the presentation directly. This is basically about the disaster management, and what system we have in our country for the disaster response. Probably since it's a course related to disaster and the disaster management, most of the speakers may have covered some part of this session also. But we will be focusing more on the life saving skills, which is much important in the first response. When it comes to life saving skills, it is more about rescuing a person, providing a basic life support, shifting the casualty, or providing a proper transportation, or probably providing a CPR, or providing management of bleeding or wound injuries. Everything will come in the first aid aspect. So basically, I'll be starting with the disaster and the disaster management. I'll be sharing my screen now. Yeah. Okay. Hope my screen is visible. Okay. Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The slide is visible in the full screen form.
Yes, sir.
No, sir, not yet.
Yes, sir. You can.
Okay. It may take a moment, madam. It may take a moment. Hope it is visible now, full screen.
No, sir, it is not visible.
It's not visible.
No, sir.
My screen is not visible, sir.
Sir, no, sir, not yet sharing.
Okay. Presentation also. Let me try that again. Okay, now it should be visible, sir. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Now it's visible, sir.
Yes, it is visible.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. So now it is visible in the full screen mode now, sir.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
So good morning once again, and we'll be starting a presentation regarding the disaster preparedness and response. So to start with, as you know that our country is prone for the disaster, which is highly prone for the disaster. The objective of this session is to sensitize and educate regarding the disaster preparedness and response, and also to involve the trained manpower during such emergency. So, as you are aware regarding the various disasters that happened in the past, if we remember the recent disaster which has caused a massive number of the death among the natural disaster is Uttarakhand. If you remember 2013, it's one of the best example we can quote regarding the climate change phenomena that's happening in our country or throughout the world, and resulting into many changes that's happening. 2013 Uttarakhand floods and landslide, which has caused the death of more than 20,000 people, and probably more than 40,000 people went missing. Even today, their dead bodies, nobody got their dead body. They went missing and they have been declared dead also. So this is a disaster where initially it was thought that it was a cloudburst, but later it was known to that everyone. It is due to the manipulation of the environment in that sensitive and the fragile area that caused this disaster. So we'll be going step by step regarding various disasters. The present day, what we are facing, a biggest challenge is urban flooding. Urban flooding is a common phenomena which is seen across the country nowadays. if it rains for more than 1 to 2 hours, you can see the water logging everywhere. Even this year also, we are going to see such kind of changes. It's urban flooding can cause probably a disruption to the community, can cause a lot of probably disruption to the old system as well. So the urban flooding is quite commonly, it was way back, if you remember 2015 Chennai flood or Mumbai flood way back in 2008. So after that, we thought it can happen only in once in 10 years or 15 years or 100 years. But you can see the flooding of Bangalore, the urban flooding, for more than 3 to 4 times every during a rainy season. And not only rainy season, the post monsoon and the pre monsoon period, whenever there is a cyclone, we can see the urban flooding. So we need to learn the lessons from the urban flooding. What exactly is urban flooding? What may be the possible reason for the urban flooding? Why the cities are flooding, which was not happening 20 years before? So why we can see the flooding nowadays? So basically, to start with, the whole country we can see during a rainy season or the pre-monsoon, it will be flooding. So what could be the possible reason and how to manage that? I request the participants to please mute your mic. Okay, so let us go and discuss briefly about the profile of our country, the disaster profile. Before that, what exactly the meaning of a disaster? There are various definitions have been given regarding a disaster. In our country, the National Disaster Management Authority, which is the nodal agency for management of the disasters, has got the definition. But general understanding, if you go to the UN definition or the WHO definition, so general understanding, disaster is a situation which is of a very high magnitude, which can cause death of large number of people, which can cause a devastation to the property. And the very important thing about a disaster is which cannot be managed with the local administration. So any situation, for example, a flood or a building collapse or a fire, which can be managed with the local administration, definitely we cannot classify that as a disaster. Disaster means to say a situation, for example, which happened in the Wayanad. If you remember the Kerala Wayanad flood, where the whole village was swept away and more than 300 people got killed in that incident. So that's kind of a disaster which requires probably support of army, air force or navy. We can call it as a disaster. So any situation, for example, a major road accident, which can be managed by the local administration, by the district administration. A situation of a probably an outbreak of a disease can be managed with the district administration. But a situation like the COVID, if you remember the epidemic and the pandemic, which cannot be managed with the local administration, and it requires an external assistance, we call it as a disaster. So please understand the difference between a hazard, a disaster, an accident, and a particularly a major incident or an accident that's reported from cities and the towns across the country. So disaster means to say which a situation of a big magnitude or a major incident which cause serious disruption of life and death also perhaps. So the peculiar thing about the present day disasters are we can see all the three seasons in a month. So you can see the temperature of early morning dropping to 16 or 18 degree nowadays in the month of February. You can see the foggy like environment. By afternoon, the temperature goes to 38 degrees also. And by evening, sometimes it may become cloudy and it may rain. So we are seeing all the three seasons in a 1 month and sometimes in a 1 day. That is a climate change phenomena which has all been global warming. Everyone knows about the global warming issues and how it causes a climate change as well. So we are seeing a drought like situation, a flood like situation, and both the situation in 1 month. And most of the time the government, when it starts responding to the drought, by the time the relief and the rehabilitation is taken care, so the flood starts, the rainfall will be starting, and it will be so heavy rainfall which cannot be managed with the local administration. So these three things are commonly happening. And let us classify the disaster. So when it comes to the classification of the disaster, as everyone know, we can classify the disaster into natural, which is quite common, as you know: earthquake, hurricane, tsunami, flood. So these are all natural type of a disaster. And the human made disaster is again a biggest challenge of the 21st century. In the human made or the man made disaster, the nuclear accidents, the industrial accident. If you remember the Bhopal gas tragedy that happened, or a terrorist attack or a bomb blast kind of a situation can be called as a man-made or a human-induced disaster. And there is a one category of a disaster where there is a combination of the both phenomena. There is a combination of the natural origin as well as aggravation by the human manipulation. So we call that disaster as a hybrid kind of a disaster. And present day we are facing more of the hybrid disaster. So in the hybrid disaster, the common thing is spread of a disease in a community and a global warming. So spread of a disease, if you remember the COVID, if you remember that the origin, nobody knows exactly what is the origin of the disease, but it was spreading across the world through the human manipulation or the high risk behavior. So any acute respiratory infection for that matter, the spread take place due to droplet infection while sneezing and coughing. So we can categorize that into hybrid disaster. So if you remember the COVID, the corona, the COVID-19 has killed more than 6 lakh people in India in the 2021-22, considering all the COVID phase 1, COVID phase 2, and the COVID, the third wave as well. So including all the three waves of the COVID, the total number of the death crosses more than 6 lakh. So in any one incident or any one disease, so much of death has not been reported in the past in India. So that is definitely, any disease also is categorized as a disaster under the hybrid disaster. And the global warming phenomena, as you know that global warming is a natural phenomena, but it has been aggravated due to the human manipulation, industrialization, or pollution in the environment.
महाराष्ट्र शासन विभागाचे प्रमाणपत्र मिळेल जे तुम्हाला नोकरी मिळवण्यास मदत करेल तुम्ही या पात्रतेत बसत असाल तर
I request the participant to kindly mute your mic.
pnykpy.mahaswayam.gov.in प्रस्तुती जिल्हा माहिती कार्यालय सांगली. कथासरा 12 मध्ये सीझन ऑफ लव्ह होईल, सीझन ऑफ डायमंड.
I request the participant to please kindly mute your mic. Okay, thank
Shankar
you.
Naik, mute your mic.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So hope the slides are visible to everyone, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you. Yeah, and the road accident is, even though we cannot categorize a road accident as a disaster, it is becoming the number one disaster in our country. The reason is the number of death in a road accident. So in every year, more than 1,60,000 people die due to road accident. Even though we don't categorize that as a disaster, but it is a situation which need to be addressed by everyone, including the department, including the academicians, including the universities, because our youth are being killed on the road due to probably their mistake or somebody's mistake. It's happening. So it is very important issue that need to be addressed. For example, if you take earthquake, flood, or the tsunami, or for example the cyclone, how many people are being killed in that? The number goes in hundreds only. When it comes to road accident, the number of death goes in lakhs. So kindly sensitize the youth regarding the prevention of the road accident and what are the measures to be taken for the same. Even though it is not a disaster, but it's a cause of concern for our country. We stand number one in the world when it comes to road accident. The number of death which take place in India among 198 countries in the world, we stand number one. So more than any other country, the number of death take place here in India. The roads are becoming most unsafe place to travel. So please kindly sensitize this issue also among your students. And the second one which we are seeing among the man-made disaster is mass casualties. Mass casualty means to say where the number of people, the number of death crosses beyond the local resources or the local hospitals. So nowadays you can see the train accident as well. Every month, almost since past 1 or 2 years, we can see the train accidents happening here and there. The reason may be different. God, there are many investigations are taking place. What could be technical error, human error, or it could be due to sabotage or a terrorist attack. But number of death, in the train accident. If you remember the incident, the train accident that
Excuse me,
happened.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. You are in the first slide only, sir. You are
Oh, the slide is not changing, sir.
doing, sir.
No, sir,
Now,
it is
sir.
not changing, and also it is not in the slideshow mode, sir.
Okay, I
Sir,
was.
screen is not yet sharing, but it's sharing, but now the slide is not.
Okay, sir. Got it, sir. Got it. Now, is it moving, sir? I will use this mode only because full screen mode, I think it was not visible. Is that okay, sir? Now that it has gone to the next slide, sir.
The,
Yes,
in,
yes.
it is in Uttarakhand flood.
Yeah, Uttarakhand flood. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I will use this mode only, sir. If I put a full screen mode, the probably it
Okay,
is not
sir.
visible.
It's okay. It's okay,
Now
sir.
it's okay, sir.
Yeah.
Manage,
So
manage
I
it.
was just talking about the Uttarakhand flood that happened, the lesson learned from Chennai floods, if you remember, the Chennai floods that
Yeah.
have happened way back, and the urban flooding. I was talking about urban flooding, which is quite common phenomena to be remembered. And flooding is quite common, which is happening everywhere. And so we were talking about the definition of a disaster. Disaster means to say any incident which causes a maximum number of death and injuries, and which cannot be managed with any local administration or the district or the state administration. So the next part is regarding, I was talking about the climate change is biggest reason for the increasing number of a disaster. Maybe the number of cyclone, flooding, drought-like situation, increase in the number of diseases as well. It's happening due to the climate change. Hope the slides are visible now, sir.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
visible, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Got it, sir. Okay. So I was talking about the types of the disaster: natural, man-made, and the hybrid. So hybrid is a kind of a disaster where there is a spread of a disease in a community. Can be categorized. It's not natural origin. It's not man-made. So there is a combination of both the factors. That's the one thing. I was talking about the road accident. The number of road accident is becoming the number one killer in India among any other incidents. So more than 1,60,000 death is being reported in India because of the road accident. So next is I was talking about the basically on the train accidents which happening now, and we categorize that as a mass casualty, and such kind of a mass casualty is happening. And when we have lesser resources, it is very important to remember the triple train tragedy that happened in Odisha, if you remember, which killed more than 500 people and injured more than 1200 people. So in that situation we have limited resources. The nearby hospital maybe 3 or 4 which can manage up to 100 per hospital. The number of ambulances is reported to the scene is more than 50 only, but we can shift only 1 or 2 persons at a time. So just imagine the magnitude of a disaster like this, which requires a mass casualty incident management. We call it as a triage. When we have lack of resources, for example, first responders, or including all the department, the police department, fire brigade, civil defense, volunteers. So the number of volunteers, the responding to such a disaster may be in 200 or 300 number, but it is again a very lesser number to manage when the injured are in thousand. So such kind of a situation, we need a proper SOP, the standard operating procedure to manage. We call that as a MCI approach, mass casualty incident management approach, or it is also called as a triage. Triage means to say we categorize the injured, we prioritize whom need to be shifted first. So when we categorize the injured, we categorize into three category: the red category, the second one is yellow category, then the third one is green category, means to say the minor injury. So red and yellow indicates that red means unconscious injured, and yellow means to say the person who is conscious and but injured, and the third one is walking wounded. So we take priorities into red category first when there is such a mass casualty. So the administration will respond first, and administration will be shifting those people who are unconscious and injured as a first priority, because we have lesser resource. That's called as a triage. We will be discussing triage later as well. And there is one more thing that is happening now is quite common is stampede. Stampede means to say, as you know, that which happened in Kumbh Mela, or the stampede which happened recently in Tirupati also. So stampede is becoming uh, it's quite common incident that's reported in our country, but it need to be taken very seriously. Reason the mass congregation, as you know, India as a country with so many religious belief, we have so many religious occasions where the thousands and people will gather in lakh, or probably if you remember the Prayagraj or the Kumbh Mela, where the people will assemble in crores. So if we don't have a proper management system for the management of people or the mass congregations, that can result into a disaster like a stampede. So if you remember the incident that happened in Tirupati, you remember the incident that happened in Kumbh Mela or Ayyappa Swami temple at Kerala, or even at Mecca, if you remember, the stampede happened. So these religious congregations or mass congregations during religious function, we have to have an SOP. Every district is having a district disaster management plan, which these plans should be inclusive of the mass congregations management. For example, recently I was at a ATI taking sessions for the Mysore officers for mass congregation management during Dashera. So every time the state government will be taking initiative to train the officers regarding the mass congregations, so people management of the crowd during occasions like Dasara. If you remember, Mysore Dasara is the very famous, the world famous. It is celebrated probably the crowd will be coming from across the nation, sometimes outside the nation as well. So there is no single incident that's been reported in last probably 50 years. So that is because of the excellent preparedness of the district administration and the state administration in management of the congregation. So whenever we have mass congregations like what is happening now in Prayagraj or Kumbh Mela, so we need to have an SOP, standard operating procedure. We need to have first responders. We need to have trained volunteers. We need to have mobile first aid post. We need to have many other measures in place only. Definitely, the government of Uttar Pradesh also is taking a lot of measures to manage it. But such stampede are preventable. These are preventable, and it can be avoided as well. So let us come to the disaster profile of our nation, how much we are prone to the disaster. So when it comes to how much we are prone to the disaster, if you just look into the disaster map of our India, if you just look into the map, so how much we are prone to flood, how much we are prone to the uh, earthquake. So let us discuss briefly about that, how much we are prone to the disaster. So basically, to start with, as you know, this is the map of our nation showing the disasters in the past. If you remember the various disaster, the major disaster that's reported in our country, the southern part of India, the major incident that was reported was Kerala flood and the tsunami. And northern part of India, every year it's flooding in Assam, every year it's flooding in UP and Bihar also. And earthquake also is quite common in northern part of India compared to southern part. So let us go to the disaster profile of our nation. So the disaster profile of our nation, if we just look into the profile of our nation, regionally, when it comes to the South Asia region or across the world, the globally, the distribution of the natural disaster, the Asia is prone for nearly 42% of the disaster, compared to the Pacific, compared to Europe and the Africa. So we are highly prone. Nearly 42% of the region in Asia is prone to the disaster, and particularly in India, nearly 60% of the landmass is prone to earthquake. So earthquake, the whole nation is categorized into zone. There are zone being categorized: zone one, zone two, zone three, zone four, and zone five. Zone 5 means to say which is highly prone for the earthquake. Zone 1 means to say which is less prone for earthquake. But generally, 60% of the area in our country is prone to earthquake. And particularly when you go to the zoning, if you look at the zoning, you can see the red, the red mark category is zone 5. Very high risk of an earthquake of a magnitude 9 and above can happen in these places like Assam.